Thousands of people went to Buckingham Palace yesterday to lay flowers and pay tribute. More are expected today. Our correspondent Jane Hill is there for us this morning. Jane, still dark, but still lots of people there paying their respects. What's the atmosphere like there?
Naga, yes, good morning from Buckingham Palace. So much quieter, as you would expect, than it was last night when we saw thousands and thousands of people come here to pay their respects, to try to take in the news as the news started to filter through. Still very early in the morning here, but Buckingham Palace with the flag at half-mast. It is the symbol of the royal family, isn't it, in this country? The Queen, of course, who died at Balmoral, who loved Balmoral, who loved her home in Aberdeenshire. But for so many people, it is inevitably Buckingham Palace, which is perhaps what comes to mind when you think of the British royal family. And so, just as we did last night, we expect to see many, many people gathering here today. Not so many right now, just this early in the morning, as you might expect. There's a few early morning runners and cyclists making their way down the Mall around the memorial here, and they are, I notice, stopping, pausing at the gates of the palace behind me, just looking through the gates, thinking perhaps about this new day as the UK wakes up for its first full day with a new monarch. But as you suggest, thousands of people came here last night as that news started to emerge. Tim Muffet has more on that.
An event we all knew would come one day. But for so many, one that is so profoundly sad.
It's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking.
What did she mean to you?
The Queen means everything to me like my mum means to me. She was a fantastic lady. She'll always be a fantastic lady. She'll always be a part of my life forever, and I'll never forget her.
She meant a lot to me. For someone my age, I've got quite old grandparents who were born in the 1917 and 22, so she was part of their lives too. So talking to them, they knew her growing up, and it takes a thread back to that sort of era. And now I hear people talking about a king and a coronation, and it puts conversations I had with them in my head of when they would talk about a king, a coronation. So it feels very strange to have this person that's been the head of everything in my life go.
The McGrath family are from Dublin and are on holiday in London.
Well, our two countries have been so close over so many centuries, and we've had a tough past, but it goes without saying that she was an iconic woman and a role model for women of all ages and all colours and beliefs. And my mum has been a fan of the Queen for so many years. She was a fan of her integrity, and she's very sad. Yeah. Yeah, we shed a tear today.
Throughout her reign, Queen Elizabeth II was unwavering in her dedication to her role as monarch. And for so many people here tonight, it is vital to honour and respect the role she played in our national story.
It's very important. The Queen has done so much for us for the past 70 years, and I think that it's our kind of duty as the British people and just generally to show our respect to someone who served us for 70 years.
She means a family. Like since my childhood, while I was in Bangladesh, I saw her through the TV. I really do feel emotional. And as a Muslim, I prayed for her after my prayer today.
We all knew this day would come one day.
Yeah.
And yet it still feels shocking and it still feels profound, doesn't it?
Yes.
How are you feeling?
I think she's a kind of mother figure to everyone, and she was so, I can't really put it into words. As a nation, we're mourning the loss of the Queen, but for the King and his family, yeah, they have lost their mum, their grandmother, their great-grandmother, and so that's really sad for them. You know, we have to remember that she was their family.
The reign of King Charles III has begun. But for many, the reign of Queen Elizabeth II will never be forgotten. Tim Muffet, BBC News, at Buckingham Palace.
And here this morning, as I look at the palace behind me, you can see those rows and rows of flowers, memories, notes that people have left. We wait to see what the day brings here at the palace, but I think it's fair to expect that we will see the numbers here again today that Tim was talking about last night. Right here early morning at the palace, it's actually relatively noisy because what's going on is barriers being put out, scaffolding being erected, and that is a sign of what is to come over the next 10 days or so. Crowds expected here at the palace, and of course the ceremony and the formalities that will unfold over the next 10 days. And so the preparations for all of that is very much underway at the moment. And there are still many details that we don't yet know, of course. But we will be here throughout the morning here at Buckingham Palace, and we expect to see people arriving. There's a smattering of people at the gates, and people peering through all the time and soaking in the news that came through yesterday evening. We'll have more from here at the palace to come. For now, Naga, Charlie, back to you.
Jane, thanks very much. Jane Hill there.
Our royal correspondent, Sarah Campbell, is at Balmoral for us this morning. Good morning to you, Sarah. So, of course, the royal family gathered there, including King Charles III. What do we know about events today and their movements?
Yes, good morning to you from a rather rainy Balmoral. You can see the tributes behind me, which were left yesterday, the gates leading up to Balmoral Castle, and one can only really imagine the sadness that there has been inside those castle walls over the last evening, not just for the staff who will have worked with the Queen for many, many years, but also, of course, her family, who, as you say, rushed to be here yesterday because, apart from being a global figure, and there have been tributes flooding in from around the world, she was, of course, to them a mother and a grandmother. And really their movements here were the first sign yesterday that something really was seriously wrong. So the new king, King Charles, he arrived here. Of course, at that point, he was Prince Charles. The Duchess of Cornwall also spent the night here at Balmoral, as well as her other 3 children, so the Duke of York, Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, and Prince Edward, along with his wife, the Countess of Wessex, and her 2 grandchildren, Prince William, who's now heir to the throne, and Prince Harry. They've all spent the evening inside Balmoral. And I think a sign as well with the change of monarchy that the new king, King Charles III, issued a statement quickly, because of course he now takes on the role that his mother performed for more than 70 years, and his statement really giving this sense of personal loss. He said, "The death of my beloved mother, Her Majesty the Queen, is a moment of great sadness for me and all members of my family." And as much as he will have had time to grieve, he must now get on with his new role. So we expect that he and the new Queen Consort will leave here at Balmoral probably later this morning. He will have tasks to perform. He will have his first audience with the new Prime Minister, Prime Minister Truss. He will have to go through the details for the period of mourning that will now be undertaken, for the funeral arrangements, which will have been long planned but will need to be signed off and finalised by him. And at some point later today, we do expect him to address the nation, to, as I say, take on that role that his mother has performed so flawlessly all these years, being some sense of comfort and reassurance to the nation. In a wider picture, in terms of what's going to happen today, the period of mourning has started. We will expect to hear bells being tolled at the big cathedrals and churches across the UK. We will expect flags to be at half-mast, gun salutes to happen in the royal parks. And all of our lives will be touched in some way. Big events may be cancelled, sporting, cultural events may be cancelled over the next 10 days or postponed. And books of condolence will be opened in local halls, in town halls. The royal website already has an online book of condolence for the many thousands, if not millions of people, I'm sure, who want to leave their own thoughts after the passing yesterday of Queen Elizabeth II.
Sarah, I understand the Queen had often described Balmoral, where you are, as the place where she was most happy. And I know people there were very familiar with her coming and going over so many years.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful part of the world for anyone who's been here. Royal Deeside. It's got thousands of acres on the estate. It was an estate bought by Prince Albert for Queen Victoria a long time ago. But the Queen has spent so many happy summers here. She would normally travel here in July, stay here until sort of late September, early October. And it was really a place that she could get away from it all. She could spend time with family, she could have visitors, she could entertain. We know that she cherished her time here. The First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, said yesterday that she hoped it would be of some comfort to her family, that they know she would have spent her final days in a place that she truly loved. And as you say, people here really thought of her as part of their community, just as I say in her other residences, like in Windsor, people say the same, so they will have felt this quite personally. Crathy Kirk, which is just over there, she was a member of the congregation, and she would have really been missed here, and I think that was reflected in the people that came and laid tributes and spoke about her yesterday.
Sarah, for the moment, thank you very much. We're going to hear now from some...
It's history, and we just wanted to be here to share our condolences to just be part of it, kind of thing. Yeah.
It's really sad news to hear. Actually, it's that's the reason we came. We were hoping to pass on our regards, or just to be here. So it's kind of sad, actually.
A sad day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for everybody, I think. I think the whole nation will come together and just, feel the same. Yeah.
Although you never knew her or anything, but her significance was just incredible. And it doesn't really hit home, I don't think, until you hear something like this, and what she meant to us and what she meant to the country. It was absolutely incredible legacy.
Some thoughts here from the people who live around and about Balmoral, as they're saying, feeling that they have lost a member of their community and feeling that they wanted to come here and just share their thoughts, as we've seen at Buckingham Palace, at Windsor, at Holyrood, at all those sort of big places within the UK that have been so linked to the Queen over this last 70 years, and where people now feel that they just want to go to and just want to share their thoughts and be together.
And Sarah, of course, you're in darkness now, but I would imagine, like a lot of the other royal palaces and places connected with the Queen, they will be expecting many people to pay their tributes. We've seen flowers laid in many places already.
Yes, absolutely. No public here this morning. As you say, it's still dark here, although it is starting to get light here this morning. It doesn't feel too quiet because on either side of me I am surrounded by television crews from around the world who've been broadcasting through the night and will continue to broadcast a reflection of the fact that the Queen was not only a figure of great importance to Britain, but also around the world. And that's certainly been reflected, I think, hasn't it, in the tributes which have been coming from all corners of the globe, not just the Commonwealth, but countries where she wasn't a head of state, but all of these people respectful, understanding and acknowledging the fact that Britain today has lost a figure who has been a global figure for 7 decades, and that is a huge loss to this country, but a huge loss much further afield as well.